the youth coming up is going to naturally continue to push Bitcoin to the moon, and I think property is going to have a problem. It's hard for me to predict which coins are going to be big in the future, but there is a coin that I've been holding on to forever. They took my houses, they took my cars, they took all my banks, but they couldn't take my crypto. Yep. So you're asking me what's going to send the price of Bitcoin to $1 million? Well, I think just simply...
U ovom videu Andrew Tate, jedan od najvećih influensera današnjice, govori o jednom razlogu koji će poslati Bitcoin na $1 milion. Također govori o kriptovalutama koje on čuva, kao i o njegovom mišljenju o kripto svetu. Pogledaj ovaj video do kraja, zaprati naš kanal za još videa i saznaj o čemu se radi. Prije nego što krenemo sa videom, kratka poruka od našeg sponzora, a to je Vavada, gdje možete igrati preko 2000 slotova i preko 2000 raznih crash igara. Jedan od najigranijih slotova jeste Wild Bounty i ako otkucate u bonus sekciji kod ADV Capital Academy, dobit ćete 100% bonusa na depozit i 100 free spinova kako biste isprobali ovaj slot. Također ovdje možete pronaći i druge poznate igrice kao što su Chicken Road, koja je veoma jednostavna za igranje. Također imamo igricu Mina, gdje je potrebno da pogodite gdje je mina, i još mnogo drugih zanimljivih igara.
I think timing the market is an easy way to go insane, right? I don't think anyone can perfectly time the market ever. I see people studying the charts and all these things, and I know some people know a lot more than others, but to time it perfectly just seems stressful. So I'm very simple. I just buy and forget. I've been buying and forgetting Bitcoin since $6,000, and the day it crossed 100,000 was remarkable. And it's amazing how hedonistic adaptation works, because when it crossed 100,000, it was crazy. And now when it drops to 110, I'm like, this is trash. You know, it's crazy how quickly we get used to it. So yeah. I buy and forget. I truly believe that crypto is the future. I think it's one of the only ways that anybody can generate or build wealth, especially the younger generation now. The game has completely changed. Everything is rigged. Everything is set up, and everything is on the verge of collapse. So if you don't believe in crypto, I often ask people, if you don't believe in crypto, what do you believe in? Because all the things from the past have been proven to not be true. And the generation above us, our parents, in relation to wages, they got access to very cheap property. They could get a house for 1 year's wages, but we don't have that. The one thing we do have is the ability to get hold of very cheap information. We don't have to do what they used to have to do, which is go to university or hire a professor or try and find a book and read it, which was very expensive in terms of time. We can now just ask ChatGPT, or we can just join an online course or read Twitter. So we get cheap information. We don't get cheap property. And if you're not utilizing that cheap information, which is all telling you one thing, Bitcoin, yep, well, then you're destined to stay poor, I guess. When I analyze these things, I think it's very easy, instead of predicting, what's definitely going to happen with Bitcoin, let's predict what's definitely going to happen to other things. Is America losing global hegemony? Is America losing global power and status? I would argue yes. I would argue that Russia and China and India and a lot of these other countries are now starting to ally against America. That's bad for the dollar. I mean, that's pretty obvious. Which is going to be bad for the stock market. It's going to be bad for the property pricing and markets across the Western world. And that's why there's so much money flooding into gold. Gold's hitting endless all-time highs. It seems that the people with huge financialized capital know something we don't, and they're trying to move away from the dollar into a safer instrument. I mean, these are all facts now. So before we guess about the Bitcoin price, let's look at the facts. If the dollar is going to continue to go down, if all of the world's capital is going to be looking for a safe haven, if the stock market is not going to perform, if property is not going to perform, it's only going to be gold and digital gold, which is Bitcoin. So I think it's very feasible. I think it's very possible. I think it's a great hedge against the implosion of the Western world. I think the path to 100K was much harder than the path to $1 million. But I would say what's going to really spiral it upwards, what's going to really send it in a tornado to the sky, is the very simple thing that the biggest Ponzi scheme in history has been property. People buy houses not to live in. They buy houses knowing it's going to be worth more later. And for that to happen, you need to wait for the next generation to slave away to buy your house off you for more than you paid. And if you actually look at the property markets, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that Florida has more houses for sale than any point in its history. in London, the property prices dropped by 47% since COVID. There's actually already a huge problem with property prices in the West. And what's the reason for that? Well, it's very simple. In the 1980s, if you were 25 and you managed to save up 100,000, you'd go to the bank, you'd go through credit checks, you'd show you had 100,000, you'd get out a mortgage, you'd put that as a deposit, you'd agree to get raped by the bank for the next 20 years, and you'd buy a house for more than the person who sold it to you bought it for. But now anyone with 100,000, they don't go to the bank and ask for a mortgage, and they don't go to the bank trying to get hold of a property. They just buy Bitcoin and forget. So property prices are struggling, and they have a problem because young people aren't buying them. I'm not sure if it was America or England recently, they said that more houses were sold to people above 70 than below 30 for the first time in history. Only old people still believe in this. So you're asking me what's going to send the price of Bitcoin to $1 million? Well, I think just simply time. Across the next 5 or 6 years, the young people will be coming into maturity. They'll be looking to build a financial base, and they'll be sitting around saying, am I going to go to a bank and try and explain to them every single penny I made and get tax audited by the IRS and then owe a bank 11% interest on a loan for the next 30 years? Or am I just going to buy Bitcoin, put it in cold storage, and go enjoy my life in Thailand? So for that reason, I think that the youth coming up is going to naturally continue to push Bitcoin to the moon, and I think property is going to have a problem. You know what's funny? It's hard for me to predict which coins are going to be big in the future. I love Hyperliquid. I love Hype. I think Hype's going to do very well. But there is a coin that I've been holding on to forever, and the price has never moved. And it's Chainlink. And I don't know what Chainlink's going to do. I bought Chainlink at $20. I bought 10 million of it forever ago. And now it's like $24. It's been like 6 years or something stupid. And I see all these people posting about Chainlink all the time, and the price never ever moves. They literally integrate it with MasterCard, and the price stays the same. I don't know what I'm doing with this. It's basically a stable coin at this point, but